I'm a polyglot. I can speak a lot of languages. I'm in the 1% of language learners. Eu puedo hablar español. Eu puedo falar francês. Eu falo português. Eu falo italiano. What kickstarted my language learning journey was a deep curiosity for wanting to understand the people around the world. And also, a lot of immature reasons, which you'll find out quickly. But soon this curiosity turned into a massive issue. A dilemma. A polyglot dilemma. I wanted to learn every language out there. As I say, jack of all trades, master of none. To a certain extent, this saying is very applicable to polyglots. We never become truly fluent in our target languages. We get conversation in a language, and then we move on to the next language, the next language, and the next language. In this video, I want to address the polyglot dilemma that many language learners will encounter. It's a never-ending thirst of wanting to learn more languages. Let's go back to the start of my language learning journey. To give you a bit of context, I'm Mexican-American. I was born bilingual. With my family, I speak Spanish, and with my friends, I speak English. So the first language I really learned was French while I was in high school. Now, the big reason why I learned French was not because I really cared about the French people or its culture or the language as a whole. It's because I wanted to go to college. In order to go to college, though, there was a prerequisite. You needed to take 2 years of language classes. And I only had 2 options in my high school. It was either you take Spanish or you take French. I could have took Spanish for an easy A, but that's not who I am. So I decided I'm gonna learn French. And I'll tell you this, I felt like James Bond while I was in high school. In my friend groups, people saw me as that cool guy because I spoke a lot of languages. I guess a lot of languages for an American. I was born and raised in rural USA. The majority of people only spoke English. If you spoke Spanish, you're a freak of nature, right? Because you spoke 2 languages. Now that me that comes in that spoke 3 languages, I was like out of this world for them. So even though I didn't speak fluently French, okay, I was still regarded as that cool guy, okay? Because I spoke a lot of languages. And in my mind, I thought I looked like James Bond because, yo, I speak 3 languages. I guess that amused me, okay? Just the reactions I was getting by telling people, yeah, I can speak French as well. I speak Spanish, I speak English, I speak 3 languages. And guys, keep in mind, I was a high schooler, okay? An immature high schooler. At this point, all I cared about was looking cool and getting girls. The moment I learned French, or I guess I started telling people I was learning French, okay? I was like that cool kid. And I thought to myself, if I learn more languages, maybe the effect will be even bigger, right? If I was a center of attention just by speaking 3 languages, I don't want to imagine what would happen if I spoke many more languages, okay? That's what I thought in my mind, okay? I was an immature, naive high schooler. I will say this though, learning French opened up a completely new world to me. And with learning French, I also learned the culture, the food, the people. I learned about Napoleon, the great things he did, Louis XIV. I started having this deep sense of curiosity of what it would be like living abroad, or I guess living in France at this point because I was speaking French. And this deep sense of curiosity expanded into other languages. I started thinking to myself, what if I learned Chinese, Italian? Learning French planted a seed in me, a seed of curiosity. After I graduated high school and I entered college, it was the first time I was able to meet people from all over the world. Like I was saying earlier, I was born and raised in the rural USA at a place called Iowa, it's a state. Not much going on over here. I was never really able to encounter people from, I guess, different parts of the world. So when I entered college, university, it was the first time I was able to meet Muslims, people from India, people from Korea. Another thing, I was able to meet people who were speaking 4 or 5 languages as if it was nothing, especially people from Africa, where it's a norm, okay, where you speak 4 or 5 languages, or in Europe. So I felt like I was a small fish in a massive ocean now. Well, in high school, I was a cool kid because 99% of people in my high school, they could barely speak English. Speaking Spanish, you're a freak of nature. Now, if you speak 3 languages like me, I was out of this world. But going into college, it really humbled me. But also my ego got in the way. My ego wanted to be James Bond, that feeling of respect, of people looking up to me. That faded away while in college because there's people bigger than me in their language learning journey. I told myself, I have to learn more. 3 languages isn't enough. If I want to compete with these big shots in college, I gotta learn another language. So after doing a lot of research and asking around, I realized that the hardest language I could learn is Mandarin Chinese. Okay, there's difficulty levels for an English speaker. Level 1 are the easy languages for English speakers. For example, Spanish, French, Italian. And then there's level 5s, which are like the impossible languages for an English speaker, which are like Japanese, Persian, Arabic, Hebrew, and Mandarin Chinese was on top. It was like the king. Since I had a big ego, I decided, you know what? I'm learning Mandarin Chinese. With learning Mandarin Chinese, no one will be able to compete with me. Although I might speak less languages than the people that speak 5 languages, I speak Mandarin Chinese. Okay, that's like a massive flex. In order to make my language learning journey for Mandarin Chinese much easier, I decided I'm going to study abroad my sophomore year. year in China. I wanted to live in an environment where I was forced to speak the language. I knew that if I continued to be in the USA, I could probably still learn the language, okay? But it would probably be exponentially much harder because I didn't have no one to practice with. But if I lived in the environment that spoke that language, I'd be forced. And I knew I'd be making leaps and bounds of improvement because I'd be in that environment. I'd be forced to speak that language. Not only that, I would have a sense of accomplishment. The problem I had when learning French was that I had no one to practice it with, besides my French teacher, okay? But that didn't give me a sense of fulfillment. Yes, I was advancing the language. I could tell with the exams I was being given, but I couldn't have a proper conversation because no one spoke it. So I knew that if I was in an environment where I had proper conversations and I knew that I was improving, okay, I would have a bigger sense of accomplishment. Just to give you a bit of context, in college, I studied political science, and I convinced my college to send me abroad because I told them it would further develop me. I was going to be able to learn about international relations, international diplomacy. So that's a big reason why I also ended up in China, on top of obviously me wanting to learn the language, but also because I wanted to further, I guess, understand people. Okay, so it was a deep sense of curiosity of wanting to learn the language to be able to understand the people so that I could help me develop myself political arena with my degree in political science. Learning Mandarin Chinese was incredibly difficult because it had no alphabet. The grammar was easy, I will say that, but it didn't have an alphabet. Because it didn't have an alphabet, I had to learn thousands of characters. Here are a couple different books that I used. If you look here, it was insanely difficult just to make any improvement. So there was a couple times throughout the time I was studying abroad that we had breaks, which was a 3-day break, 4-day break, or maybe like a 2-week break, which was in the winter for winter break. These times of the year when we had breaks, I would just book tickets to the rural parts of China. The reason I wanted to go to rural parts of China is because I knew I would be forced to learn the language faster. It would be really hard to find an English speaker. If you've never gone to rural parts of China or rural parts of Asia as a whole, they really never have interactions with foreigners. Me being in rural China was already out of the norm. It was already a shocking experience to the people there. But when they found out that I spoke their language, okay, obviously not fluently, but they saw that I could converse with them, their jaw dropped to the ground. Okay, it was just like I don't know if I can make that experience, but it was such a surreal experience to me. And I can tell you this, my ego went through the roof because it reminded me of my high school days. When I was in high school and I was telling people, yeah, I can speak 3 languages. Okay, I was the center of attention. I felt like James Bond, right? All the girls were flocking to me. I was a cool guy. And I missed that feeling. And when I went to China, with these rural parts of China, and people looked at me as a freak of nature. And also when I spoke to them in their language, okay, and amplified that reaction, I feel great. Okay, it was like a ego. I know it sounds egotistical, but in a way, that's what I guess started my language learning journey. Okay, just that sense of like shocking people that was fulfilling for me. It was amusing. These people, they would invite me to their homes. They would want to give me their daughters in marriage. I had such a warm reception whenever I spoke to these people in their language. And I started thinking to myself, this is crazy. Just by me speaking to them, okay, in their language, the reception I get is completely different to any other tourist out there. Like, this is crazy. I'm able to receive such a warm welcome just because I speak their language. Right? Nelson Mandela best said it, right? You speak to someone in the language you understand. You speak to them in English, it goes to their head. But you speak to them in their language, it goes to the heart. So I started, I guess, maturing in a way. I started realizing the power languages can have on someone, on being able to speak someone's language, right? The impact it could have on them. The doors that it could open. The doors that opened for me while I was in China. My junior year, I decided I'm gonna go study abroad in Paris, France. Now I was in high school. I had learned French, but I never had the chance, the opportunity to really use it. So I said, fuck it. Now's the best time. I studied abroad my junior year in France. While living in Paris, I also realized the importance of learning another language. I'm not sure if it's a Parisian thing, but whenever I tried to speak to a French person right in Paris in English, they would just ignore me. You gotta be able to speak their language. If you don't speak their language, you just get ignored. Also, they won't make friends with you. In the very beginning, the first couple of weeks, a couple of months when I was in France, I struggled a lot because French in high school, I had forgotten a lot of it. So I had to relearn the language. In the very beginning, it was really hard for me to make friends. But after I started becoming, I guess, conversational to a higher degree in French, okay, it started becoming easier. People started accepting me more. Me learning the language had a huge impact on the experience I had in France. If I didn't learn French, I probably would have never made friends. I probably would have had a negative experience while in France. So this highlighted for me the importance of learning another language. And I'll tell you this, okay? I went from a high in China where people were shocked that I spoke their language to a low in Europe because it was a norm. Everybody spoke 4, 5, 6 different languages, okay? It was such a common thing. Take Switzerland, for example. They speak Swiss German, Italian, French, English. They speak so many languages there. Belgium, they speak like 4 or 5 different languages there. I was a little fish again in a bigger ocean. This didn't help my ego. I felt like a country bumpkin. I needed to learn another language. Just as my study abroad term in France was about to end, I made it my life mission that I was going to learn more languages. I didn't want to be average. So I returned to America my senior year in college. I came up with a different mentality. I was going to learn a whole bunch of languages. I joined a whole bunch of different language clubs. The point of these language clubs is to learn the language. I joined Korean club. I wanted to learn Korean because a bit immature on my part, but I like Korean girls. I was into K-dramas, K-pop back then. I had what people would consider yellow fever. I joined Japanese club. Now the reason I wanted to learn Japanese was because I had a childhood fantasy. I used to watch a lot of anime. I always wanted to see what it would be like to watch it without subtitles. So that's why I wanted to learn it. Then I joined Arabic club. I wanted to learn Arabic because why the hell not? Okay, I was just learning languages just because my ego was shattered while in France and I had to learn more languages. Okay, I went down this rabbit hole. My priorities were in a different place here. I put more emphasis on learning languages rather than on my degree. I graduated college during the height of the pandemic in spring 2020. There really wasn't much I could do. I couldn't leave the country and I guess the economy was doing pretty bad there. So I decided I'm gonna take a gap year, okay, to further develop my language skills. I wanna learn more, I wanna learn more, I wanna learn more. I was like a madman at this point. I was studying languages 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay, I had no social life, I had no life at all. I didn't even care to put my degree into use. All I cared about was learning languages. And after a couple months, my parents asked me, what are you gonna do with your life? And that was a valid point, right? I had just graduated college and all I was doing was learning languages. As a kid, I always wanted to be a YouTuber. So I decided, you know what? We only live once. I want to be a YouTuber. I really didn't know what I was doing in the very beginning. And I think my situation isn't unique, okay? When you start YouTube, you just do content on whatever, right? I remember I used to do language content. Oh, this is not working. I'm gonna do lifestyle content. Oh, this is not working. So I was just juggling a whole bunch of different types of content, seeing what stuck, okay? And after a couple of months of doing YouTube, maybe a year, I encountered the infamous Omegle language content. I started seeing these YouTube gurus just shocking natives out of their world whenever they spoke their language. I was like, yo, this is crazy. Okay, this is something I can do from the comfort of my home. Shocking natives with my language skills sounds easy. So I started doing this content. People loved it. I started getting millions of views, thousands of subscribers. The thing is though, with all these subscribers, I also started getting requests. People were wanting me to learn their languages. I would get people from the Philippines. Raul, can you please learn Tagalog? And I would get people from India. Can you please learn Hindi? And because I wanted to please them, I said, you know what, I'll do it for you. And I started getting a whole bunch of different requests of different languages, and I started putting all these languages into my schedule. My schedule was a mess. I was juggling like 13, 14 languages at this point, just because I wanted to please my YouTube subscribers. These are all books and journals from my language learning days. It started off as a deep sense of curiosity to wanting to understand the world, of me wanting to be James Bond. But after learning so many languages, many years down the road, okay, I had lost my vision. I was just learning languages just for the sake of it. I had no overall goal on why I was learning so many languages. And this is not healthy. And it got so bad that I had to hire out a hyper polyglot just to be able to help me maintain all these different languages. Because one thing is just learning the grammar, learning how to, I guess, speak the basics, but another thing is like maintaining the language. And I needed him to be able to construct my schedule because I was learning so many different languages, many different language groups, right? I needed something to be able to keep me, like, I guess, organized. I couldn't like learn multiple language groups in one day because then it was gonna be a mess, right? I had to learn a language group one day, which was like the Romance languages, then we're gonna do like Asian languages another day, maybe African language another day. So it was really bad. I needed somebody to help me organize, someone that's already went through what I went through. I had this routine with my hyper polyglot for a couple months until one morning I said enough is enough. I had burnt out. Okay, one morning I just woke up like a zombie and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? What am I actually doing? Why am I learning fucking Tagalog? Why am I learning so many languages? At this point, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life learning languages. I decided I'm gonna stop. I can't continue to do this. You see, this is the polyglot dilemma. You're never satisfied. You want to learn more and more languages. It's never enough. You become a madman. I will say, I don't regret at all becoming a polyglot, okay? It's been the best decision ever because it's opened so many doors for me. Although I would love to learn these other languages, I know that I have finite amount of time on earth. I can't just spend the rest of my life learning languages. I don't want to amount just to be a language guy. I know I could do so much more for this world, contribute so much more to society than just my language abilities. That's the reason I only decided to focus on the languages that I guess I cherish the most, the languages to start off with. Now, if you wish to dedicate your life to language learning, then go for it. Learn every freaking language out there. I know there's people that learn 60, 70, 80 different languages. But if you're like me, who only sees languages as a tool of communication, to understand other people, then a few languages will do. Now, if you want my guidance as a polyglot on what are the best languages to learn, well, it really depends. What are your aspirations? For example, if you want to be a great engineer, well, learn from the best, from the Germans. Learn German. If you want to learn fashion, learn from the giants. Louis Vuitton, Versace, Gucci, right? These brands from France and Italy. Learn French and Italian. Learn languages based on your interest. Don't be like me who wanted to learn a lot of languages just because I wanted to be James Bond. Remember, James Bond isn't just known for his linguistic prowess. He's known for his killer instinct, for his charisma, for his courage. Languages shouldn't define you. It should just be a skill set of an arsenal of skills that you carry. That's how I look at my languages. It's part of me, but it isn't completely me. I hope this video gives you guidance on your language learning journey. It helps you avoid the pitfalls that I've made. And if you have any questions, don't be shy. Write in the comments down below and I'll be sure to answer them for you. Now, if you're interested in seeing the languages I speak, you want to see my language skills in action, I recommend you watch either of these videos. It'll give you an idea what languages I speak. I hope you liked this video. Until next time.